And we're live. So, hi guys, welcome back to the SMB Show Live. As usual, this is the number one place to get your news on what's going on in the SMB market in the UK. We speak to business owners, real deal makers that are active right now on Main Street. So, this is a great place for you to get your questions answered. Look, guys, you can email us at live@thesmbshow.com. You can ask myself and guest questions throughout the show. That's live@thesmbshow.com. So this evening, we're going to skip all questions, okay? I'll do a session on those at the end of the week. We have a special guest today. A good friend of mine is joining us. And as you can see from the title, this individual sold his Bitcoin to buy his first business. If you have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat, guys. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on a good friend of mine, Dasan. How you doing, mate?
Yes, mate. How's it going? Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Good, thanks. Better now. I've got a cup of tea.
Yeah, nice.
Five as well.
Ah, yeah, you're rapping. Let me see. Ah, he's rapping
It's
the
good.
5G. Amazing. So, yeah, how's things been? How's things been? Just in general over the holiday season. How have you been doing?
Yeah, it's good, mate. To be honest, it's surprising how many businesses are shut during the festive season. But it's been a good break. We've had some time to sort of look at our systems, look at our products, think about how we can improve things.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's been a good time. I've just had like about 6 interviews today, so looking to bring on more people, which is good.
Okay,
And yeah, things are thankfully looking okay. What about yourself?
amazing. Yeah, all good, all good. Similar to you, I feel the same way. I feel like as soon as you get into the first week of December, it becomes a great excuse that is holiday season. So there's Christmas parties and all other things going on. So people think it's a good excuse not to work. Problem with this is people don't think they're back in work till the second week of Jan. So it's
Yeah,
like 6 weeks. Uh,
yeah,
so, but the good thing is those that are hungry to keep the doors open and are open for business do have a bit of an unfair advantage for those that shut down. So it
yeah,
is actually a good time of year as well. So look, for anyone that is listening that, you know, don't know who you are, just give us a bit of a introduction and then we'll dive into it.
yeah. Sure. So TLDR is I studied engineering at university. Realized I wasn't going to be a tremendous engineer, so I thought, okay, there's got to be other ways to go about making a living. I was quite interested in investing, so I binge watched the likes of Buffett, Monish Pabrai, all these guys for a very long time during my university. And I thought, okay, the plan is just going to work hard, invest my money, and outperform the market eventually, and then just live as an investor. COVID happened, and the market did all sorts of crazy stuff, and so yeah, my stocks were going up, but so was everyone's. Right? You could just chuck your money in the market, and you
Mm,
did well. I thought eventually at some point I'd look at maybe owning a business, but I didn't really know how I would go about doing that.
mm,
Uh, and whilst I was investing, I got invested into crypto too. So went down the rabbit hole with Bitcoin, did a lot of research on Bitcoin, and just started piling my money into Bitcoin. And I thought, okay, I was following all sorts of traders, Stock to Flow, Plan B, all the guys at the time. I thought, okay, Bitcoin's going to hit 100K minimum 100K at least. Most likely go to 500,000, maybe even more. Um, so I thought, okay, I'm going to cash out on my Bitcoin when it peaks, and then I'm going to put it into some sort of property, flip it again, and then 2024 cycle, it's going to go to 1 million, and I should be fine after that. Lo and behold, that didn't happen.
mm.
So at the time, I think I came across UD on, what was it, Instagram, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was Insta. Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys were following the network, the crypto market at the time. So I thought, okay, let me
Mm,
join. And it was really good, to be fair. Like
mm.
it was nice. Obviously, crypto didn't go the way anyone predicted.
No.
Um, so that was interesting. And then when it didn't go the way anyone predicted, I thought, okay, well, my plans failed. I don't really have anything planned, and I don't want to go into engineering. And so I was working part time, and then that at that point is when an individual in our group had bought a business within 3 months of
Mm.
learning what M&A is. And you were putting together the M&A course at the time. So I thought, okay,
Mm.
this is it. Let's just go all in. So started going all in on M&A, and a few ups and downs later, after about 13 months, ended up buying Noise PR. And that was in June of 2023. And what year is this now? 3 years. So yeah, almost 3 years later, we're still going.
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah, I guess that's
amazing. So I think, look, you dived into it, just jumped in the deep end, right? You had, I think there was another 2 companies before this one that one you was very close to buying a few months before this one, right? And I think last minute the owner changed their mind and decided not to sell. So your deal flow is very good, and then we almost partnered on a extremely big, would have been an amazing acquisition. Unfortunately, a lot of indecisive people and some people in the middle that got in the way of that one. But yeah, you was very active. You picked it up fairly quickly, and ended up buying Noise, which we'll get into in a sec. But when you was initially reaching out to business owners and getting involved in the process, speaking to them, going through the discovery process, where did the initial confidence come from for yourself? You know, I guess it is just conversations and rapport building, but you know, you get that little bit of anxiety when you first dive into it. And yeah, how did you overcome it, and where did the confidence come from?
I think confidence comes from actually just doing the thing. I don't think it really exists before. Okay, so there's 2 parts to it. I had a choice of whether it was, what would I rather do? Would I rather take a risk on this and see where it goes, or settle and do a 9 to 5, go into engineering, the corporate route? And I desperately did not want to do that. So I thought, okay, this has to be it. The course, the program, the course, everything, all the materials I had was really, really helpful, because the first call I had with a business owner, and at that time, I remember everything's such a big deal when you're doing it for the first time. So I remember I was telling you about the first time I'm going to have a call with someone. But yeah, I had the script in the background. I read it off word for word, pretty much. And by the end of it, I knew this person's revenue, the profit, and I thought, okay, this is working. And then you just sort of build on from there. You do another call, you have a call with the broker, and then I met with a business owner face to face. And then once you slowly start to cross each boundary, you then have more evidence that you can do the thing that you are trying to do. And then once you get an offer accepted and heads of terms signed, every step is just an addition to that pile of confidence. And so I think that's where it came from. But a big help was the people around me in the group, but also the material and the access that I had as well.
Yeah. And then in regards to the deal itself, which part of, was there a particular part of the structure that mattered more to the seller than just the price?
I'd say the payment terms for the seller. So for this particular deal, the payment terms, the seller wasn't really willing to go long with seller finance. So we had to get all the payments sent to her, I think was 9 months or just under a year, which is quite tight. It was a smaller business, so I assumed it wouldn't be too much of a problem. But yeah, that was something that was that affected this deal. But in other deals, like the ones that fell through before, or that we didn't, or we just walked away from, you know, the payment terms weren't an issue, but sometimes it was the closing payment, and raising the finance for the closing payment, and then realizing, wait, hang on a minute, I'm financing the seller finance payments, but I'm also financing the closing payments. And before it's a business, it's a spreadsheet, isn't it? And you're just like, yeah, the numbers work. I should still have some sort of profit left over, but you just whack it on all this debt on the spreadsheet, and it's all fun and games. But afterwards, you tend to realize that, you know, debt is no joke, and you got to be sensible about these things.
Yeah, yeah. The debt service cover ratio, for anyone listening, is a very important metric that needs to be looked at. You know, not just, especially if you're, well, you know, it's very important anyway. But if you are taking on debt finance into the deal as well, then lenders are definitely going to look at that metric. Okay, and then like you mentioned then that the terms on some of the other deals you was working on. I remember the one that you brought to me. I think the closing payment was actually like 20%, actually less than 20% of the purchase price, and then the deferred consideration was like 6 years or something, right? And it was some performance linked to it as well. And that was a deal that, again, it was agreed about 3 times, right? and it went on for that long. The broker at the brokerage actually changed. The one went and worked somewhere else. It went on for that long. So, but he was quite an indecisive seller, but someone that was willing to obviously work with us as well, which was good. Another Bitcoin fanatic as well, right? So yeah, birds of a feather, right? So back to the business that you actually closed.
Yeah.
The seller wanted their money very, very quickly, so they weren't willing to extend those terms for very long. So how important was the seller's role post acquisition?
To be honest, they didn't really do much post acquisition. They stayed on, I think, for about 3 months. But they were always there. So the terms were that she would stay on for 3 months. But after about a month or so, there wasn't so much that I could, at this point, it's my business. I understood everything in terms of the business model at the time and what I could call on her for help for, but there wasn't much use for her to be there apart from maybe some clients who have spoken to her in the past and specifically her, so she would jump on those calls. But other than that, there wasn't too much involvement. The difficulty was, well, I guess we'll get onto this later, but it was not having any performance earnout on the terms and conditions. So it was she was going to get this amount regardless, and this again goes back to a deal making maturity, I guess, because this was the first deal. So I wanted to get the deal done. I didn't put a performance earnout, and I was pretty confident we could get the money to her, but it proved to be a lot more difficult than said at the time.
Yeah. And how old was you when this deal was closed?
I think 24 or 25.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm asking is because I feel like some people look at M&A as like an older, more mature person's game.
Yeah.
And there's been some really good young deal makers in the group, right? And I feel that the younger deal makers think about it less. They just get on with it.
Yeah.
And you end up finding success a lot quicker because you don't overthink anything, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like you had any shortage of deal flow. I felt like you've always had something in the works, before you bought this company, after you bought this company, during buying this company. Felt like your pipeline was very, very strong. I actually remember, I just forgot about one of the deals that we actually went on a site visit in person.
Yeah.
I think the deal size was 20 million for that deal, right?
Yeah.
So, and the reason why I think this is important for anybody listening is because, you're 24 years old, right? And you're getting in front of very seasoned operators that have grown pretty big, large 8-figure companies, and you're able to build rapport with them and put the confidence in their minds that you're a safe pair of hands to buy the business. And that's why I said at the start, where did the confidence come from? Because I feel like sometimes, and I totally understand, some people do have those limiting beliefs. Some people put their own walls up in front of them and be like, well, because I haven't done this before, the whole like, am I going to get found out? Or do they believe that I'm going to be able to do this? Or can I do this? And I feel that by breaking down those walls yourself, having the confidence and getting through it. And like you said, if you educate yourself and I feel like the confidence comes from fluency, right? The more fluent you are in the way you speak to people, understanding the process, and you find, the business owners themselves look to lean on you to guide them through the process, because 99% of them have never sold a company before. So they actually don't know how this process works. And when you do know the process and you can learn the process fairly quickly, you are a bit of a guide for them. And then that's where you create that win-win. Because look, another thing when it comes to this is I feel like some people approach this and think that they have to have one up when it comes to deal structure. But what people don't understand is, especially when like most of these deals are going to have an element of seller finance, if it's not a win-win, it's not going to work. Because nine times, and the reason why I asked you about the seller involvement is because 9 times out of 10, the seller will be involved throughout a transition period, and you will probably need them, and you're going to ask them some questions, whether whether your values align or not. You're going to ask them some questions because you just bought their business. In most cases, I mean, going for a couple of decades. So it needs to be a win-win. Both people need to feel like they've got something out of it, right? So, okay, moving on from there, because I would like to get into the one deal, the £20 million deal, but because it didn't happen, and it's pretty confidential, I guess, right? But the long story short, guys, the seller ended up selling it to an EOT, which we've covered before on one of these SMB shows. So watch back one of the previous episodes. It actually says it in the title. Can cause all sorts of problems for an acquirer. Right. Moving on from this, because I remember when you bought this company, previously the company had placed Stephen Bartlett on a podcast. They'd done some pretty cool things in PR. I don't think they had the knowledge that you had coming into the acquisition process, like the client acquisition process.
Yeah.
They obviously had a lot of potential, but you pretty much put that on rocket fuel, but I also know that come with its challenges as well, restructuring, growing the company basically from the ground up and taking it to where it is today, which is, you probably 10x or more than 10x the company since you've acquired it, which is amazing. So in regards to the tech side of this, I always think that in a lot of business owners, especially the baby boomer generation, when they're selling, the reason why they a lot of the time have an integrated tech, they've got a very strong, good foundation, solid business, but they haven't integrated tech. So a lot of the time there's a cost to integrating tech, which can be quite big. It can be quite costly if you make a mistake, but also the culture in the business, a lot of the staff in the business also are now open-minded if they're also a little bit older as well. Now, in your business is very much agile, flexible, I would say, very modern compared to your old traditional business. What sort of things tech stack wise did the company have when you acquired it, and then what have you integrated since to create efficiencies and really start to scale the business? The fact that you've grown it so big since.
Yeah. So when I joined, I think they had a basic CRM system, so they were using Monday.com. But what I found was that they were using it unnecessarily. It was more just to have a CRM system. They had the basic stuff, the softwares for communicating to clients. They had like the emails, but they weren't doing much advertising or outreach. They had a little bit of a social media presence and a website, but that's pretty much it. So in terms of getting clients, all they were doing were referrals, relying on referrals. So they would be reaching out to people on LinkedIn and things like that. In terms of what changed, it's pretty much AI has been a big help, and that's no secret. But a lot of it has just been volume and increasing the amount of people that we speak to, increasing the amount of people that know about the company, and making sure that when they come through the client acquisition process, the whole way we're using tech to keep them updated, whether that's on the sales process on the front end, but also on the back end. And to be honest with you, mate, like we don't have the craziest, most advanced piece of software. We don't have, software that's worth thousands and thousands of pounds. It's all readily available online. It's just how you're using it. And I think what we take from traditional business is, as long as you treat the customer right, you provide a good service, you have loads of touch points with them, more often than not, they're going to be happy. And that's the same whether it's a product or a service. And so I think on the tech side of things, that's where we're at the moment. We do have things in the pipeline to improve, whether it's the product itself, but also the customer journey. I don't know if that's where you were going with this.
Yeah, really. I just to make the, for instance, you take the company from where it was,
Yeah.
which was a nice foundation. I understand you, like I said, you had some challenges in the initial transition period, but to take it to where it is today, you know,
Yeah.
there's a very, very it's a fast growing company now. And, you know, you've done a lot of work to work on the base fundamentals to get it to where it is today. And I was just wondering if the tech stack or piece of software has played a role in it. I understand, like you mentioned, you was working a bit on AI, but I
Yeah.
feel like you've really focused on the client acquisition process, because at the end of the day, in any business, if there's no sales, nobody has a job. So it doesn't matter, you know, obviously there's marketing and then there's sales, but if you're not very good at marketing, or you don't know how to find customers, and you don't know how to turn those, if you don't know how to find leads and you don't know how to turn those leads into paying customers, there is no business. So I feel like this comes back to something I feel quite strongly about, is when business owners look at their business in general, people say work to your strengths, right? And
Yeah.
I totally agree with it. I think that's very important. But I also think that people work on the things they like to do. But
Mm.
I think it's really important to work on the things the company needs you to work on, not what you want to work on. And I feel like a lot of us get it wrong. You know, I do it as well. You like to work on all the things that are cool, you
Yeah.
know, the things that are fun and you enjoy, but sometimes they're not the things that the company needs you to work on to drive the business forward. So is that something that you identified when you started to see some of the maybe the gaps or constraints in the business?
Yeah.
Did you focus quite quickly on changing those and just sort of rolling your sleeves up? Like what was the change there?
Yeah. So I think, to be honest, and this is no dig at the previous owner, she did a great job, but a lot of it was focused on making it look pretty and making it
Mm,
look, and the branding and the design and all of that does matter. But if people don't know about you, it doesn't matter how good your brand looks. No one knows about you. So that was one thing, but also then the systems that we used, the processes, the way, to be honest, the tech was being used, it was more so to, again, to make things look good, but they weren't actually tactilely great. Even just improving the way you provide the service, the actual product itself, I think was more important than making it look a certain way. And so I think even at the start, I found myself doing that when I took over the company. So I was making, spending an unnecessary amount of time making the website was good, making sure like our social media maybe, and prioritizing things in the wrong order. When in fact, all that mattered at that point was getting more customers and making them happy. And that's it, and building a brand that way and getting reviews and testimonials. Um,
mm.
so yeah, I think it's normal to go down the route of making something look good and making it something, that's not going to. It's the question, isn't it? Will this make the boat go faster? And if it doesn't, or if it doesn't get you there sooner, then what's the point? You're just kind of making it look prettier, but you're not getting there any quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, you know, social media hasn't done people much favors with this, right? It's an amazing tool, and people that use it for business, you know, I don't need to tell anyone how powerful that is, but I feel that, you know, there's this thing where people do spend a lot of time on making things look like they're amazing, which
yeah,
of course it helps to a certain extent. But if you spend all the time making things look good, but the thing isn't actually good, or the thing that you try to make look good doesn't produce sales, then it's sort of like, what are you doing, right?
yeah,
I think there's a lot of that online. So, look, obviously, we've been having a lot of conversations throughout your process here, and seeing the growth amazing. And you know, I mean, honestly, because I've known you for so long now, and to see your growth, like I feel like a proud big brother when I see, you know, honestly, I do. But what would you say for anyone listening? You know, you're kind of in sort of like in the info space. Yeah, I know you're in PR, but it's kind of runs similar to just an info business in general. What do
yeah.
you think has been, if you could just pick the one thing that was the absolute game changer for you to go from where you was to grow at the level you are now? So, because for anyone listening, guys, Dassan's business was growing at a crazy rate. You know, it has grown is insane growth over the past 12 months. So what would you say the one thing was that you focused on? You're like, that was the constraint, the bottleneck. We
Yeah.
changed this and started to see changes in whatever amount of time.
It's it's volume and people.
Mm.
So the more we hired, the more we were able to handle. So then the more people we were able to contact, the more appointments we were able to book, and the more sales we made. And it was as simple as that.
Mm.
And I don't know why I slept on it for so long. Like I knew this was the answer, but yeah, I just slept on it for so long. We improved our products here and there. We did a few tweaks, but the biggest unlock was every time I onboarded a new person, our volume went up, and then each person, I kept them napping a bit, but I didn't maximize them to the fullest potential. And then then I started incentivizing them a lot. So, for example, during Christmas, I set incentives like, okay, if the whole team sets 200 appointments, then everyone gets a bonus. Or like I would do random challenges for like, top 10 or top four people to book appointments today and things like that. So it's incentivizing the sales team on the front end. And in terms of the back end, it's, how quickly are you replying to customers? How quickly can you get them to leave a review, and incentivizing that? So I think the biggest is people, the more people, good quality people, and then how quickly you can reward them for the behaviors that you want them to produce. And then it's just volume. And as long as you have a good product, it's like same with the info space, no matter how good how bad the product is, you can never outdo that. It's that you're limited by that product. So as long as you have a good product and you're getting good reviews, good feedback from clients, then you just need to serve more people, and more people need to know about you. And that's all it was for us.
Yeah, it's insane what happens when you sort of gamify the sales
Yeah,
team, right? It makes a massive difference, and yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so one of I suppose the burning question everyone's probably come here to listen to, based on the title, you sold your Bitcoin to buy the business. So business needed financing, and what was it? Again, back to confidence that you was like, because like I said, you had a few other deals in heads of terms
yeah.
up until this point. Deal flow was very strong. This was the business that you thought, right, I know I can, buy this and improve it and grow it. Where did the confidence come from to sell your Bitcoin holdings, especially coming from a background where you want to be an investor, to be like, I'm going in on this. This is what I want to
Yeah.
do. Where did that confidence come from?
Mate, to be honest with you, like you just don't have confidence. You got to do it whilst it being uncertain. Like there's no such thing. You're never going to be 100% confident. I read this book about like decision making, and Barack Obama, he would decide when he was president, right? He would decide, and the decisions he's making is, should I bomb this country or not, or should I, they're crazy level decisions. And all he could do was, is he 51% sure over the 49? And if he's just that 2% difference, he would go ahead, because you're never going to be 100% certain. For me, that deal that fell through, I actually sold my stock holdings, my stock portfolio for that deal. I still held on to my Bitcoin at the time, but the plan was to use that and borrow some money from friends and family to buy that deal. That fell through, so now I'm left with the money from the stocks. And then at that point, I really just wanted to buy a business. So I thought, okay, this deal looks good on paper, low risk. Let me buy this business, keep it going in the meantime until I get that next business, which is going to be a lot bigger. And at the time, it was the roofing company, which should. And by the way, the owner of that roofing company was 27 or 28 at the time, and this business was doing 2.2 million in profit. So it goes to show, like, there's no such thing as age being a limiter.
Yeah.
So then, I thought, okay, and I think even with Noise PR, I remember I didn't send it to you early on, because I knew you would scrutinize it. So I just wanted this deal to go through, and I'm like, Dee's gonna pick up 50 things that's wrong with this. Let me just push this as far along as I can, and then present it to Dee like, this is a great deal.
Yeah.
Then I moved it along as quick as possible, and I really shortified is not a word, but I crushed the time it takes to get a deal done. And I just did whatever I had to do to make sure the deal got over the line. And in terms of selling the Bitcoin, it was hard because I've seen when Bitcoin was at its peak, the portfolio, the number of my Bitcoin balance was high. And then when I sold it, I think it was almost on at the bottom.
Oh no.
It was terrible. I think December 2022 it bottomed out, and I sold it just afterwards. So I think it was pretty much break even to what the amount of money that I
Yeah.
put in.
But
But
one thing, but if you think about it now, the business, the amount of free cash that this
yeah,
business is throwing off for you now,
yeah,
even when where Bitcoin is now, and
yeah.
I feel like the opportunity cost
Oh yeah,
that if you think about it now, you got something solid that's throwing off cash flow every single month, and some people would say someone's crazy he's selling Bitcoin to go and buy a
yeah,
business, right? But like when you think about the cash the business generated since you've had it, and now what is going to continue to generate for however many years to come, you can replace your Bitcoin holdings whenever you want now. So, so
yeah.
yeah. And in regards to the PR itself, what's some of the core products or services that you offer for anyone listening? It's always good to know these business owners that listen. What's like your core offerings?
Yeah, sure. I'd say so. We publish on pretty much any magazine, any article out there. So whether that's the New York Times, to Forbes, Apple News, Business Insider, BBC, like take your pick. Any one of those, we can get you featured on that. But we also do TV placements as well. So we can feature you on like the likes of Fox News, ABC, American TV, some UK opportunities as well. We are at the time I mean we can look into being featured on like billboards and buses and stuff like that. But in terms of actual bang for your buck, I think high reputable PR sources and magazines and articles and TV placements is where you're going to get the most value for your money, I'd say.
Okay, and yeah. So, guys, if you see me on Fox News in future, you know the guy that did it. And in regards to the M&A process, right?
Yeah,
The actual deal making side of it. What's the part that you enjoy most, and why?
I think just having conversation with business owners, especially now more so than before. Before, when I was having conversation with business owners, I didn't really know what I was talking about, which is crazy because they seem to think I did, but I really didn't. I had no business experience. I just knew how the M&A process would work.
Mm.
But yeah, in terms of the M&A process itself, speaking to the guys, even if it's you end up having a call and it doesn't go anywhere, it's just still nice to have that conversation. You always learn something, and every call you have is one call under your belt. So the next
Mm.
time you go and especially the negotiations, it's so cool. Like I grew up watching like Suits,
Yeah,
and to,
yeah.
to see like a miniature version of that happening, and to write offer emails and to say, okay, would you rather have this or that, and learning negotiation tactics and things like that. I think the whole business side and the whole M&A transaction, I think that's pretty cool that we get to do that even on a low level or sometimes even a higher level.
Mm.
So I think that was the most favorite part.
And then looking ahead now, you've got a
Yeah,
really good business. It's growing very fast, and I know you're very conscious of making sure your attention and focus and time goes into the thing that's gonna have your best bang for your buck, as you just mentioned. In regards to acquisition, what are you thinking, and what makes sense to you? You're looking at something in the same vertical, or what is it you think would make the most sense for you?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I absolutely desperately want to get back into acquisition, like, probably full time, to be honest with you. Um, but yeah, in terms of the next acquisition, I at the start was just thinking, a good, profitable business at a fair price, a boring business like a roofing company or flooring company, something that I know that, no matter how many years pass, people are always going to need a floor and a roof over their heads and things like that.
Mm.
Um, I watched I think it was your most recent one, right? Where you spoke about when you went to visit the Hermosis and they
Mm.
mentioned, PE no man's land. And in the long-term future, as good as these deals are now, you really do have to think about, what do you want to do in the future? How are you going to roll this up? How are you going to make sure that there is synergy there? Because at the end of the day, are you going to have a portfolio of businesses where you're dabbled into a few things and they're making money, but you are still going to have to manage this for a long time, or would you rather exit? And if you
Mm.
are the exit route, and if the enterprise value of the group has to be high, then it has to be some sort of synergy.
Mm.
Um, And then I was struggling with this decision. I think we spoke about it briefly with, I don't know what the next acquisition, but something that you mentioned, which was um, a really good point, is buying a platform business and integrating Noise PR into that as the marketing arm and as the PR arm, and then all of a sudden that business just becomes much more valuable.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this current business, there's two ways of going about it. I could build it out so that it becomes a sellable business, but I think it makes more sense to build it out so it's just something that produces cash on a reliable basis, and it's also less headache as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I think that you're in a quite unique position, right? Because you've built like an actual serious marketing machine, the business you have now, and the fact that the services that you offer, pretty much every business needs in regards to credibility. There's always going to be a place for someone to stay relevant, stay in the public eye, in whichever way you want to do it. And PR is a great way to do that. And because of your sort of Rolodex now, you can get people in pretty much anything. But yeah, so there's a few ways of looking at it. Either you could go and acquire another, someone's client book in a similar space, or I do think that is probably for you. You go and buy a solid platform, and you have a marketing machine. You basically got. You can put your business as the department, and it's like, yep, this is what we do. But you can also have the clients too, right? So it pays for itself, which is really good. And I think that we talk a lot, especially myself, about the opportunity that we have here. Not only because of just the baby boomer generation itself, but I have something here. This is something I pulled off an article the other day, and is so basically Companies House filings estimates 620,000 UK company directors at age 67 plus, and there's just under 500,000 that are over 70, and over 100,000 over 80. Now, when you think about a large cohort of aging directors are literally still in the seat right now, which, looking at this, it's inevitable. There's going to be a sale, a wind down, or some sort of forced succession event, right? And we are in a quite again a unique position, because a lot of business owners have built incredible companies. Their children 9 times out of 10 have zero interest. It's crazy, right? I was talking to someone that owns a waste management business a couple of weeks ago. Amazing business. They're doing 500,000 profit a month, and they have a son and daughter. None of them have any interest in owning that business. Now I'm like, you could literally inherit one of the best businesses. You know how hard that business is to find, and you're like, they just don't want it. So that business owner is looking to divest the business. Obviously, they're going to be looked after either way, but it's just a crazy time that we live in. And we've gone from a situation where I think when I left school, it was like, do you go to college or do you go and get an apprenticeship in a trade or something, right? And we're in a position now where it's sort of like there's not, unless the family is very much about succession planning and legacy, which a lot of them like to think there, but it's hard to get the children on board with it, right? So I guess before we sort of close this out, a lot of the business owners that you spoke to, where was some of the pinch points for them? Was you seeing a similar pattern when you were speaking to them? Because you spoke to a lot of young founders, and also you spoke to, I remember the large one, that individual is quite close to what was at retirement age. So what was the sort of the pain points for you and the motivation that was coming from these business owners?
Yeah, I mean, just quickly on what you said about the market, D, if there was ever a good time to have FOMO, now is the time. Like, just hearing all those statistics, I don't know how fortunate anyone's going to be in a position where you're in such it's the perfect storm. It makes zero sense to go down any other route, especially when all the top entrepreneurs, all the biggest companies around the world are in this space. In terms of, what was it, pinch points for companies?
Yeah, mainly. Sorry, probably better word to use is the actual motivation for sale. What was you picking up? What was like a regular pattern?
Yeah, they need a retirement plan. They don't really invest much in a pension. They realize they can't run the business forever. They know that it's mostly old business owners and they want to sell the business because what else can they do? They can't liquidate it. That's 20, 30 years of heritage.
Mm.
There's no one in their family that wants to take it over. Um, and they want to see the business live on. I think anyone who's built a business and managed to keep it going for that many years, or who inherited it from their parents or whoever, would never want to see it be liquidated. They'd always want to see it be carried on. So yeah, I think the main concern was always, is this going to be surviving? Is this going to continue? And are you the person to do it?
Mm.
And I think similar to what Mitch said as well when he was on here is just listening to what they want, is showing that you can pay attention and that you have their best interest in heart, and you give them the reassurance that they're going to get the best out of this deal as well as you, and that they're going to have an easy retirement. You're not going to be calling them on a Sunday afternoon, um, and it's gonna be smooth sailing for them and the business. It's never like that, but
Yeah.
that's how you pitch it.
Yeah. And just on so the two deals that we were working on that
Yeah,
you found, just for anyone listening, when it comes to deal structure, I think one of the things that people find it hard to get their head around, when they haven't been involved in this, haven't really got the whole acquisition strategy going, is why would someone seller finance 50+% of their business? Now, just for you guys who's listening to have some context here. So the first deal, um, the way Thasan structured the first one, it was basically around 20% of the entire deal value on day one, and the rest was paid over, I think it was 6 years, and it was also some performance linked to it as well. And that was a young founder. That was the 27-year-old
yeah,
that Thassan talked about. So when someone has a motivation for sale, regardless of age, because I always see a lot of people comment stuff like, why would someone, no one's ever going to sell a good business? And it's like, well, they do. So
yeah,
every day. Um, so that was the one. And then the other one was deal value was 20 million. And this one was 50% day one, 50%, I think, over 4 or 5 years. It's a long time ago from memory.
yeah. Mm. 5 years.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and that was a much older um, business owner. So these are conversations, and these are big deals, guys. Like the first one, I think deal value was 10 million in total, I think,
yeah,
and then the other one was 20 million. And Thassan's there, 24 years old, and he's like, "Yeah, let's get these deals done." So just to show you that that your age doesn't make a difference, your experience helps, but doesn't make a difference, because Thassan, you never run a business before you
never.
acquired Noise or even did any of this. So it's a similar pattern, guys. And as Thassan just mentioned, Mitch, Mitch is a bit older than Thassan, but again, another young entrepreneur that's gone and acquired a couple of companies and done extremely well. So all the thing, and then the financing is another one. Throughout the process, the financing for any of those deals wasn't an issue to get the deals over the line. It was some other external factors. The one, the EOT, just killed the deal,
Yeah,
in all honesty. But the other one, very indecisive individual with I would say, one of probably the worst sell side advisors we've probably ever spoke to. Lovely guy.
yeah,
We had a deal agreed. And then for some reason, he didn't want to get paid, because he was like, why do we do it this way instead? It's like, well, everything's been agreed, but it is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, so the deal structure side, those conversations that you were having, just for anyone listening and anyone thinking that, why would they sell or finance such a big part of their business if it's such a good business? Both of these companies, guys, were £1 million of EBITDA. So what was it that you did to make them feel comfortable to be like, I'm going to give you some day one and some over a period of time?
yeah. I think so. For both of those deals, it's presenting that you're not just some 24-year-old kid by yourself, and I wasn't, because I had the 5D network, the 5D team, all the Rolodex that came with that, the lawyers, the accountants, but also you guys. So I essentially I was presenting myself as, we have all this backup, so the business is in safe hands. It's reassuring them that they're going to get their payments, because you walk them through the maths. It's okay, you're doing 2 million profit a year. Do you think it's reasonable that it's going to continue doing that, or at least on the worst case scenario 1.5 million? And if they say, yeah, I think it will, then you say, okay, we haven't got a problem then. If they say no, then we think, okay, so you're telling me the business is worth less than this because you don't think it's going to continue. So it's reaffirming their trust in the business. They know how good it runs, and us showing with an unwavering force that we've got this covered. The business is going to be fine. And even in worst case scenarios, you run stress tests and you show them, okay, even if we had a 20% dip, we're still going to have this amount of cash. We're still going to be able to pay you. And I think, like, for example, with the 20% down one, even if we had a terrible year, we'd still be left with hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of profit at the end of. So we weren't really concerned in that
Yeah.
aspect. So yeah, and also going in with the mentality like this is how a deal is done. So don't cave to them saying no, I want 50% upfront or I want all of it upfront. We're like, well, no, if you want the price to be this, then I'm going to dictate the terms. If you want the terms to be this, then I'm going to dictate the price. And it's working together and understanding that there's no formula for a deal. It's completely hearsay. It's just pulling stuff together, and it's, as you said, financial engineering. It's anything's possible. People are the amount of stuff that goes on in the world and how money is made. I mean, even just the 9-10% of inflation every year, and then the stock market's going up 9-10%. It's like money is never should be an issue, especially when the whole world is operating like this.
It's a scary thing there, right? I actually heard someone say this. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was like, "This is why it's so important to find a vehicle that can really outpace inflation, guys." I remember this guy saying, he's like, "So if the S&P 500 grows at 7 to 9% a year and inflation is at 9-10% a year, then the entire value creation of the top 500 companies in America is zero." And it's like, so if there's ever a time to find something that can really outpay, because even 10%, I think, super conservative to think inflation's at 10% with all the stuff that they do, so it's really important that you have something that you can sort of get behind the wheel and steer it. And like, for instance, what you've done now, I don't know what percentage your company's growing at, but it's probably 10 times inflation over the last year. So, but the thing is, you're able to really pull those levers in the company because you're behind it. Whereas when you are passively investing into the stock market, or, crypto is amazing. And, I think that there's many crypto enthusiasts here, and I am one of them, but you can't really put your future in the hands of just throwing money into random, altcoins and meme coins and and all. So you look at historically, of course, Bitcoin's, I don't know if it still is, but it was up until last year the best performing asset over the last decade or whatever. Amazing. But unfortunately, you need cash flow to live. You can't go down the local shop as of right now and buy a pint of milk with your Bitcoin. So you need
I mean, you know what it is like you localize control. So if you were to put £1,000 into this S&P or Bitcoin or whatever it is, you're at the mercy of the government or the guys in charge pulling the levers to control the market, to control the economy. But if you were to put £1,000 in advertising or ads or whatever it is yourself, you can get a 3x, 4x, 5x, even more of a return on that, and that's just you having the control versus giving it to someone else.
Yeah, I totally agree. You sit on the sidelines and you can passively invest, and long term, if you pick the right things, then great. But like you said, if you want to grow at your own pace, then you can't leave that into somebody else's hands. And before we wrap it up, mate, last one on AI. You mentioned you start to use a bit of AI, just in business in general. What do you think the biggest changes will be with AI and SMEs over the next 5 years?
So this isn't my philosophy, but I got this from Hamosi. So he says how for years and years it was man plus tools, and now it still is man plus tools. So you had 100 people taking care of the farm, and then the tractor came along and it just replaced 95 people all in one day. The same thing with AI is that it's a tool at the moment. It's not a machine to with natural intelligence to operate by itself and have human hands and operate the same way human does. So it will always be man versus man versus tools. So in terms of a business, it depends on which business utilizes the AI to the best of their advantage. For some businesses, it may make sense to not even touch it because their customer base, the way they operate, it's not really going to make much of a difference. But for other businesses such as mine, an online business, if I don't use AI or if I'm not integrating that in some way or form, I'm getting left behind because my competitors or someone else in
Mm.
the industry is utilizing it to speed up processes to deliver better results, um, and things like that. But I think what's going to be interesting is when you look at Main Street businesses, brick and mortar, or anything else like the construction space, or even real estate, is so untapped. And to
Mm.
see AI based in those industries, because the majority of people still go to your local real estate agent, the Foxtons and things like that. So to see all these mainstream businesses integrate AI and it be actioned legally and it actually systemized processes but shortens life cycles and all sorts of things, it's almost unfathomable to see where that's going to go and how much of a difference that's going to be. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's massive.
And you made a good point there. So I think that I feel like everyone's really scared of the job destruction side of AI, and it is a real threat to a certain extent. But every time we go through one of these technology waves, and this one is, I agree, it is very different. But we went through a blockchain wave a few years ago, which we're still going through now, and it's a few years ago. Everything, and even myself, thought that everything would have been tokenized a lot quicker. Now we started to see this being rolled out, and you have the Black Rocks, etc., talking about the tokenization of everything. But it always takes a lot longer than everybody thinks. But also, every time we go through one of these waves of new tech, there's a huge amount of job creation. So just back to your farm example then. Yes, it may go rid of 90% of the workforce, the tractor, but then you have people that build the tractor, right?
Exactly.
People that deliver the tractor, people that service and maintain the tractor. So there's still this job creation at the same time. But I think that the point that you made there is really important is the tools that are available and the resource that are available is making sure that, right, you are up to speed. Because yes, you can make things more efficient, you can be faster, you can optimize costs, because all these things just enhance everything that you do. I think that the one thing that a lot of people in AI at the moment, I see a lot of it with a lot of new AI consultancy companies that get set up and DM you 150 times a day on LinkedIn, is the a lot of people just use AI just to use it, just like, we're going to do this just to
Yeah.
use it. And I've said it a few times on here, but I'm going to say it again. But I love Peter Drucker's quote when he says, "Nothing's more stupid than doing something efficiently that shouldn't be done at all." And I think
Yeah.
that that's the thing where I'm like, people say, "Oh, we can build out this new AI workflow that does this and this and this," and it's like, but it's like creating things to do just to do them. And I think that that's the part where the real operators that know what cogs, levers to pull in their business, what piece of automation works in their business. Because there's one thing I think that we may go through, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, because it's how I personally feel. So I'm like, other people must feel the same way. I feel that we're probably going to go through a bit of a reversal at some point. I think it's going to go very, very quickly, and because it's very buzzwordy at the moment, which usually we have a blow off top when this happens, but then all of a sudden it'll really start to ramp up. But I feel like there could be a premium for human interaction. So, like, for instance, if you put me on the phone to a bank manager today and I had to listen to the automation AI for the next 45 minutes, but they said, we can deduct £10 from your account and we'll put you straight through to a customer service rep right now, I'd be like, yeah, do it. Because you want to get to the point quicker, because time is valuable. So I do feel that we're probably going to have a bit of a reversal at some point, where it's like, yeah, where people will pay a premium for just pure human interaction. And I think the one piece of the whole AI wave that people do need to be very careful about, especially in Main Street businesses, is the customer journey. This you can use it to your advantage for like speed of follow-up, just to remove any form of buyer's remorse once they buy your product or service, because you're hitting them very, very quickly, you're giving them access to things quickly, they have a workflow, all that's great. But if I feel that there still needs some piece of human interaction as of today, that when we're recording this, that people still appreciate it.
Yeah, I think the more and more you could lean into AI, the more and more human interaction becomes a lot more valuable. And we're seeing it with school communities, right? It's blowing
Mm.
up, and it's just having someone to relate to. It's someone who's going through that same problem, Even on YouTube, I'm seeing a trend where small creators, micro creators, are blowing up a lot quicker, and they're not doing any fancy editing. They don't even have the experience. They're just documenting what they're doing, and it can be so basic. But that human interaction, as if you're talking to a friend, has become almost really as a scarcity at this point.
Yeah.
And as more people spend time on their devices, less time outside, the way people are connecting is through online, and it is through people they relate to. And so, yeah, I think this whole, and even with AI itself, it's getting to a point where there are so many AI agencies, right, over the last few years. And now that's the bubble's almost burst, and it's plummeting, because you don't need someone who's an expert at AI anymore, because you can just get to a point where you can type. The other day I was typing out in plain English language what I want something to do, and it would write the code. It would tell me which softwares to use, and it would build out the entire system from basic language. Whereas before, you would need an AI expert who would know which tools to use, how to build it out, and so it's solving problems constantly, to the point where it's making the experts redundant. So. I have no idea where this is going to go at this
No, I
rate.
say the same. I use obviously Google a lot, Google Workspace, and with Gemini, someone emails me and it pretty much knows what to say back before I do anything. And you just, yep, that looks good. So it's crazy how, like, I talk about like ChatGPT agent mode, and the different LLMs have agent mode in them. Like, I feel like, we're getting to that stage now. It's probably already there for people that are more experienced with AI, but it kind of like makes assumptions on things that you do very quickly, because it learns your behaviors, your patterns based on the way you're using devices, etc. If you've plugged the LLMs in, and it's going to end up just saying, there's an agent pre-built for this because you do it this many times a day. Would you like to use it? That's what it's going to get to. And it's like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah, do it. It's like, so it's just it's going to probably just do it itself at some point. But look, I think
just a quick one on that. What would you say is I mean, I think more and more people are outsourcing their thinking to AI. So they're not even thinking critically anymore. They're not using their brains anymore. And so when you don't use a tool such as your brain, it gets weaker. It doesn't become as sharp. And how do you think that's going to play out and to human civilization?
So I think the people that understand the power of AI, because AI can basically memorize the entire internet, right? So, like, I think the people that understand the power of it will become smarter just naturally, because you're going to become a smarter individual on the critical thinking, because prompting the right way and to get to the thing you're looking for quickest requires a thought process behind the prompt. And so, you look at, I seen a post, I don't know how true it is, I don't know if it was AI, but McKinsey received something from ChatGPT, which is say they've like over 1 billion prompts or something, because, their management consultants are out there using it. But can you imagine how powerful it is for them? Because some of the things that they would have taken time to go through, because they know what to prompt, they know how powerful it is, they know what to say, they get into the core root of what they're looking for very, very quickly. So the whole the MECE sort of framework that they use, AI just does it for them now. So I do feel you are totally right. I think that it can dumb us down. I think the people that are just using it for nonsense, just day-to-day stuff and not thinking, they are going to get dumbed down, and they'll probably end up, no offense when doing this, but just watching other people live their lives online like people do now. I still can't get to grips with how kids watch other kids play video games online, because obviously as a kid, if I weren't playing the game, I'm not watching. So it's like, but I get it. Things change, right? So yeah, I think that some people, it's like a superpower. Like, if you understand how to use it and how to prompt now, you are literally miles ahead of the next person, because people are still understanding how powerful it is. The thing that I think is really powerful with it is, and I think that this is the scary part for me, and this may be a knowledge gap for me if someone's already knows a bit more about this. But I remember a few years ago when ChatGPT it was like when it first launched, right? And hardly anyone was using it. I remember me and Craig was actually walking around Atlanta over when I was over with him, and we talked about, people being able to license their brain, and your brain has intellect, is IP, right? So, for instance, if you're for instance, Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk and the way he thinks, how innovative he is, how just in general, he's a true visionary, right? And look at all the top CEOs, Bernard Arnold, all these people. You're like, how have these created empires? How are they building these companies, right? Now, yes, you can say you are Elon Musk, you're use first principle thinking and tell me what you do in this situation. And it will give you as accurate as possible an answer to that. And it'll be very good. But imagine you could actually license the individual's brain. Now, all of a sudden, you could be like, well, I'm just going to create the best C-suite in the world because it's my CEO, it's my CMO, it's my CEO, and for instance, now that won't be cheap, because if people do this and they do use their brain as IP and they're like, well, yeah, you can create the best C-suite in the world, but that's your competitor. They want the same C-suite. So it's kind of like a bidding war for the C-suite's minds, and maybe you have to use somebody else's. And then you're trying to figure out which ones fit better together, right? And you're trying to build a team then, right? So I think that's where it starts to get interesting, because at the moment we just empty our minds into AI. They own everything, and it's kind of like, well, who does Chat GPT or Claude or Gemini, do they own my brain? Because they're learning everything about me. They know what I'm prompting, they know what I'm asking, they know everything. And then as soon as you integrate the buy button, so like, who would have thought ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, who would have thought that Amazon's biggest competitor was going to be an LLM? Because that's what's going to happen. An LLM is going to compete with Amazon. You're not even need to go on Amazon to look. You're not going to need to go on Walmart. You're not going to need to. You're just going to go into wherever LLM you decide, and you're going to say, "Get me this." But it's going to be even bigger, right? Because you're going to go to Amazon now, and you still have to search to be like, where am I getting my best bang for my buck? What's the best quality at the cheapest price? You can just ask an LLM that question, and it's going to be like, bam, this is it. We've just scrolled every single online store. This is the best, and this is the cheapest, and it can also be delivered in the quickest amount of time. So that's crazy, right? So these are the things I'm thinking of AI is like, God knows where this is going, right? So, but yeah, I think that the IP side of things is something that I don't know if anyone's talked about. I haven't really seen anything, but where I think we need to be a little bit more careful. And no doubt, the biggest and most intelligent brains in the world have probably already got something in place to protect themselves with this.
Yeah, this is why you buy a flooring company.
yeah. You don't need Bezos to run your flooring company.
Exactly.
So no, I agree, and that's where I think the opportunity is massive with these traditional businesses, because everyone's chasing tech and everyone's chasing the real, like, whoa, this is the new thing, right? And they're hard to compete with, because how do you keep up? I feel like even now, when I worry, we homeschool our kids, because I'm like, well, how does the education system get my kids ready for this world that we're going into, right? And I don't know how I can. I'm trying, but how? Even I see now there's an AI school popped up in the Middle East, and I'm like, okay, but the people building AI can't keep up with it. They're thinking about how powerful it is and what's next, but they're like, it's just like, I remember Anthropic was like, yeah, it's just doing things now that ahead of us. It's like, well, if they can't keep up with it, then how do we prepare? So yeah, I agree. The traditional boring businesses that no one's going to want because they're not sexy, no one cares about them. You're gonna make a decent amount of money if you buy one.
And they're gonna need it. They're gonna need a floor to work on. They're gonna need a roof over there.
They are, mate. They are. And you could, even if you get the robotics to lay it for you, they still needs to do it.
Exactly. Oh man.
So, but now listen, mate. Really appreciate your time. Just before we wrap up, for anyone that is interested in PR, where's the best place to speak to you, find you, inquire? Where should they look?
Just message at noise.pr on Instagram, or my Instagram DarsInvest. You should be able to find me. I also just want to like a big just shout out to the 5D program. Like just put simply, in terms of, I look back like 5 years ago, I joined when I was 23, I think 22 or 23. And I don't think there could have been an any bigger, better start to my 20s, early 20s, that would have propelled me this far in such a short space of time. Like, bar except choosing my wife to be, this is probably the best decision I'll ever make. It's like I've learned the most, arguably one of the most valuable skills in the world, executed it, and then still, be in touch with the community, the mentors, the people in the group that have gone on to bought several businesses that have helped post acquisition. The amount of times post acquisition these 5D events have helped, like the conversations, whether it was like in New York or Dubai just before the acquisition, or even the Manchester ones, like the local ones, it's so helpful. And all it takes is one conversation, and it just changes your perspective. So yeah, big thanks to you, 5D. And like, if you're on the fence about buying a business or even joining a group and things like that, please just reach out to me, and I'm happy to have a conversation.
Nah, mate, really appreciate that. Thanks for the kind words. But look, mate, you've really manufactured your success. You took action, and that's why you've done what you've done, and that's why you've grown the business the way you've grown it. So as always, mate, I'm always looking forward to seeing what's next for you, and no doubt 2026 is going to be a bigger one again. So appreciate your time, mate. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll catch up soon. Cheers, guys. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.